So we're on lesson 4-2 about adding integers. There's a lot of different ways to model adding integers. We could think of this one here on a number line. You would start at 0 and then you would go 5 to the right because this is positive. Positive numbers go right. And then from that endpoint, you would turn around and go left because negative numbers go left. So if you go right 5 and left 7 from that endpoint, you would end up at -2. So that would be one way to model why a positive plus a negative ends up being a subtraction problem. And it ends up at 2 because we had more of the negatives. A chip is another way of modeling it. Here's +3, this is +3, and this is -3, and it shows that it gives you 0. This is +3 and -6, and you can see that these canceled out, made an equivalence of 0. And so we end up with 3 more negatives. We had more of the negatives than we had of the positives, so our answer is a negative. So both of these had mixed signs and our answer was a negative, but that doesn't always mean that mixed signs is going to give us a negative. It has to do with whatever we have more of. If we had more of the positives, this answer would have been a positive. I'll make sure that we see an example of that in a few minutes because I don't want you to think that mixed signs is always negative. That is not true. If this was a -5 and this was a +7, this would have been regular too. Here's an example of a negative and another negative, which gives you an even larger negative. No canceling out here because they are all negatives. You only create that equivalence of that 0 when you have a positive and a negative. So over here, I'm going to flip to the hard copy. We are going to be doing that on our own. So right here, draw a number line to illustrate left 2 and left 3 more. Notice that this addition problem is the same as this subtraction problem of a -2 and a -3, or -2 minus 3. These mean the same thing. A -2 and a -3 is the same thing as -2 minus 3. So here's 0, and this would say go left 2. From that point, I'm going to go left 3 more. So if I went left 2 and left 3 more, I would end up at -5. Okay, I'm going to hit an even bigger negative. Draw a chip model, 0 pair, to represent this. So this would be the +2. This here would be the -6. Okay, in green is they kind of look like the same color on your screen. Those create zeros. A negative and a positive neutralize each other. And so this would be -4. I want to do a little version set of these on the next page so that you can see a lot of problems that look similar. So here I have a down 6, up 20. So if you went down 6 stairs and then up 20 stairs, you would end up at 14. Notice that this answer is a positive, okay? So when you have mixed signs, whoever you have more of ends up winning that battle. Do you also notice what we're doing when we have the mixed signs? We'll talk about that in a second. Here, this is down 6 and down 20 more. So if you go down 6 stairs and then down 20 more stairs, you would end up at down 26 stairs. There's no canceling out like you had here. When you have mixed signs, you have this canceling out that occurs. When you have like signs, you do not. Now this is different than the one above it. This one here has the 6 being positive and the 20 being negative. How do you think that's going to affect the answer? This would be like going up 6 and down 20. Are we going to end up in the same spot as we did up here? No. This one ended up being up 14 steps from where we started, where this one would end up being down 14 steps from where we started. We have more of the negatives here, so our answer is a negative. So let's look at some rules that we have here. You can write your own, but I went ahead and got started on writing them themselves. If you have two negative numbers, such as -2 and -3, You add both numbers, your answer will be even a larger negative. But what happened here? This was this problem here. What happened when we had mixed signs? Sometimes we can get a positive and sometimes we can get a negative. What actual operation are we doing? Here we took their absolute values and added them together, but here we are actually subtracting. Even though this is an addition problem, we subtract. Whatever quantity you have has a larger absolute value, that's whether it's positive or negative. Let me read that to you. You need to subtract on these problems. Don't look at the middle sign. It's no longer going to work. You have to think of the magnitude of the numbers and the direction that they're going. If they are going in opposite directions, you're going to have this canceling out, which is subtraction. It could be a positive or negative for your answer, depending on which number's absolute value is larger. Okay, this one, the larger absolute value is the 20. Here, the larger absolute value is the negative 20. Okay, let's work across on a triple digiter. This here is mixed signs, going to give me 14. Let me stop and think. I have more of the positives, so I'm going to put a positive there. And now I have negative 4 and a positive 14. I now have mixed signs again. That is going to give me 10. I still have more of the positives. Just take it, just two problems squished together. The temperature starts at 3 degrees below freezing. So that's a way of saying -3, and it increases 15 degrees. Okay, what is the value of x? Well, -3 plus 15 is what all that's saying. It went up 15. So that would take me to 12. I'm going to take their absolute values and subtract them. And then I'm going to look at whose absolute value is larger. The positives win. That's it. Super easy. We're going to do some practice on IXL. So look at this. So here it is. So it's going to start off with just looking at problems like this, and you're just saying, which is it going to be? What do you have more of? So I have a negative and a positive. I have more of the negatives, so my answer would be a negative. I have more of the negatives, my answer would be a negative. I have only negatives, my answer is going to be a negative. I have only positives. Well, we know that from third grade, that's going to be a positive. Here I have mixed signs, but my larger absolute value is the positive. That's where you're going to start off at today. Then it's going to have you move on into C2, where you're going to be looking at some counters to do some problems. You start with -1 and you add 3. These are going to cancel out. It's going to leave you with 2. You're going to answer that set, and then you're even going to keep on going down in the threes, number lines, and then doing it on your own. You've got this. You've got this.